Kumar, and we have Mr. Sanjiv. So I think this is put together. We have around 70 years of experience in this room. So try and we will try and discuss more and more points, and we will ensure that while we will go, we'll take couple of more inputs or couple of tangible points to work upon. So starting with this. If you guys allow, I can sit. Okay. Great. So the whole point is what we are talking. The context here is while as governor plus a lot of people talk about that few things are for everyone, every time, and it should be available 365, 24/7, right? But still after even 20-25 years of the hard work, we could see that a segment is still not being cracked properly. And when we say cracked, we've been reaching there, but in bits and pieces. So what are the ways and means by which we will ensure that these guys should be the part of real financial inclusion? And that's what we are talking about. And what is that one or two thing? And I think the panel will also talk about this voice tech. So just to give little more clarification, voice along with the technology, how do we utilize this? So, and how do we unlock the value of this entire thing? So while we doing the lot of study for launching the 1, 2, 3 pay, couple of things which came to our mind, that what are the hurdles which we are trying to solve? So, and what are the hurdles or the barriers in this entire process? So as we all know that in India still more than 7 lakh villages where the network is not good. So when the network is not good, definitely data is not there, right? So, or maybe in some places, phone is possible, but data downloading and all that thing is not that streamlined, right? So I think that's the problem number one, that is infrastructure related problem. Yeah. Second is gonna be that how do we ensure that both the merchant / beneficiary and remitter both should have the intuitive journey, means a frictionless journey, so that these people can come on board with all their trust and they will be advocate of these financial transactions or the digital payments. Third main issue which we have understood is the consumer awareness. I think the set of customer which we have already taken in our foray are the people who are 70-75% educated, but 21st, still. What kind of awareness will work in the kind of customers which we are talking about? The Bharat customer might not understand English. Bharat customer might not understand Hindi, but they speak something. How do we utilize that? So that's going to be third big problem statement which we going to discuss. And the last thing, the list is long, but the last thing, are we only pushing the app-based solutions, or there are some more ways by which we can create more and more solutions which is non-app-based solutions? So moving on to this, I think my first question to Mr. Ganesh, who is having a rich experience of FMCG plus telecom and now in Airtel Payment Bank. So he is the CEO there. My first question to you, Ganesh, what do you think? How are we handling these situations like infrastructure-based, issues? And what is your thoughts and what is Airtel Payment Bank is doing there?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Sourabh. So first of all, I personally don't think that infrastructure is a challenge. Of course, there will be 1 or 2 or 3% of population, maybe 15-20,000 villages out of 700,000 villages in the country where internet penetration may not be available. Yeah, but for 97% or 98% of the population, internet is available in good speed in which they can do transactions. I'll give you another statistic. I think India has approximately 800 million smartphones in the country, of which maybe only 550 million of them would be using any form of mobile internet. Could be a WhatsApp or a Facebook. and of that, only half of them would be doing a financial transaction. So, despite them being active on mobile internet, there is still 200 to 300 million consumers who are not doing a financial transaction. So, I don't think infrastructure is the key challenge. My own view is, I think the onus is on us as professionals, as organizations, as strong brands in the BFSI sector, who hasn't done enough to build trust with consumers. To you made the point. I don't think we have looked outside of an app-based solution to enable consumers to do digital transactions, and hence I don't think we've been innovative enough in the past in ensuring that we are able to get consumers, whether the consumer is on a feature phone or a smartphone, to enable a transaction in a very seamless manner. So to me, I would think that those are the key challenges. I think one of the things which we are trying to do, with the ecosystem, of course, with under the guidance of NPCI, is to have launched a solution for feature phone customers, where with the camera you could actually just scan and sort of make the payment. We are also trying to sort of work where we have an IVR-based solution where I think the most often quoted example, which I personally am also very excited about, is when a customer calls up to book a gas cylinder. How do you make sure that just by entering the MPIN you complete the transaction? To me, those are the kinds of solutions I think in retrospect, if we had done it maybe 3 years back, I think we would have sort of gotten the next 500 million consumers on the digital platform. But that said, we are where we are, and I'm quite excited about some of these innovations, not just going live, but also sort of giving all of us, scale in the few quarters to come. So that's what I was saying.
So I think that's interesting, Ganesh, while you are saying that the infrastructure, because in our mind and the way we perceive that infrastructure is one area which is very still, exist in India, and a lot of villages and the people who are not having that proper internet connectivity. But because you are having the more statistics and you are saying that no, this is the problem might be there, but not up to that extent. So the problem is one, that people are using smartphone, but they are not used to doing the digital transactions. Great. So I think, and you also made a one pertinent point, that we might not have thought the full end-to-end intuitive solutions. So that brings me to put the questions to the two gentlemen out here, who are the true orchestrator of creating the consumer journeys for these two Bharat customers. So Vishal, my customer to you. So Vishal is the founder of Obona. Obona is working in this, creating the voice-based solutions since last 20 years. And this question to you, and pertaining specific to the consumer side story, Vishal. What do you think that how do we create a story, or how do we create such product which are not only intuitive, but also frictionless, and also adding a lot of trust in the consumer's mind, so that they will not, it is just not one of the transactions, or somebody is, adopting a village and all that thing. After some days, it is vanish. So over to you, Vishal. What are your thoughts?
Absolutely, Sourabh. So I'll take a step back and give a small perspective to that. And Ganesh mentioned it so aptly, saying that if we would have done this 3 years back, we would have had almost 500 million people. So I'll just give you an example. When we first had an idea of payments, UPI payments without internet, on feature phone, on voice, it was almost 3.5 years back when we first approached NPCI and RBI. And if it was not for COVID, I'm sure that this solution would have been in the market at least 1.5 years ago, if not more. Coming back to the perspective, see, sort of what happens is, if we look at it, UPI has done a fantastic job, right, for around 200 million odd people. That's a certain demographics of people who are using UPI day in and day out, multiple transactions. Now, if you look at India on the whole, right, if I slice it down further, there are people using feature phones. There are people who are still having smartphones but not having internet connectivity. There are a lot of people who are not very conversant with apps. But one thing is common in India, and that is that everybody is very conversant in talking. They are using their phones to speak to somebody in their local language. So one, if you can provide a solution which works on any phone, work from anywhere without internet, in their local language, I believe that it has a massive potential to really reach 1 billion users. And that's what 123 Pay will reach. Now, it's a matter of time. If you look at the use cases, Ganesh rightly mentioned, Bharat Gas or gas booking was one of the first use cases that we picked up. You get 13 lakh calls a day for booking, all cash, in today's market economy. Even if you are able to convert 20% of that in next 3 to 4 months, you can look at the numbers that we are talking about. Same is for mobile recharge. The loan EMI payments, when we talk to MFIs and NBFCs, they're struggling with managing cash and they're saying if there is a solution on feature phone which can work from anywhere, it's a game changer. So that's the whole idea. So one is of course the customer, where you have to give them the confidence and that this is a safe and secure solution. Second thing is also the businesses are looking for solutions where they can really reduce cash. So that's where we are moving towards.
So thanks, Vishal. So I think one interesting point that you are saying that everybody is looking out these customers, but there is a need to stitch the story in their one common factor that everybody speaks something. So language, how do we use what they have as a local? So local language may be the one common point. Is it?
That's a big one. Allowing a customer to interact with the system to make a payment in their native language is a big one, without a doubt.
And I think that's what the assisted model does, right? And I still remember when I was in city and we used to do sometime, in the month closing, we used to do collections for the EMIs. And the one thing which we have observed, and city was very high on compliance, that a lot of complaints we received that the people have collected the money from the poor guys as an EMI, but it has never been deposited because these guys never have the ability to go back and complain. And these customers can continue to go to 30 plus, 60 plus, 90 plus bucket and eventually they write off. So I think this will also enable a lot of great efficiency in system. Great. So I think great consumer insight. So moving on to you, Kumar, what do you think? So a payment can only be possible when we will create 2-3 things. One is consumer, second is the tech, and third is the receiver. Receiver could be merchant or receiver could be consumer to consumer, Sourabh to Kumar. But Sourabh to Kumar is a limited use case. I hardly give 4 or 5 kind of a transaction in a month. But I do at least 50 to 60 transactions on a merchant side. So looking at that merchant story, what is your views? How do we stitch that story in that streamlined way so that these adoption of such products should go up?
Yeah, I think the way we should look at it is that none of the merchant, right? I mean, so far, whatever innovation has happened in financial services is the poor guy who has been put into the process, is the merchant, right? So I open a very good cafe, right? I invest in good seats. I pick up the best beans, right? And the last thing I want is that when I start doing good, people will come and stand in queue, right? So I've created those seats so that people can come, enjoy their coffee, sit there. But what happens is when I'm doing good business, there's a long queue which starts getting created. The question is, why was that queue in the first place, right? Because, hey, here's a process to buy coffee. You have to go to a billing counter, you have to place an order, you have to tap or scan or whatever, right? And then only you'll get a coffee, correct? But ideally, it would have been that I just walk into the cashier, I speak something, he speaks to me, and I just take my coffee and done, right? So I think merchant never wanted any of these things. What they really love is that I could interact with the customer, right, whom I am serving. And that's precisely where we are going. Even if you see the evolution of tech, right? So when we started first interacting with machines, we used to type. Then a gentleman came and said, you know what, it has to be more natural. And that's where Apple got launched and your touch screen came, which is more natural. Now, if you think about what would be the next experience, of course, it has to be more natural. And that's where your voice comes. So we think that, hey, merchant would really not only like, something wherein through voice things are happening, but I think this is also going to help them bridge this divide of trying to learn a system, which at first place was never there for, solving any of his things, right? One good example I'll tell you, during pandemic, right, merchant adopted WhatsApp, right, to take orders. One can say that, you know what, that was a forced adoption. But you will be shocked to know that a lot of businesses, right, they used to leave voice messages to their suppliers to get the products. So they were already within their community using voice messages, right, to get products. And when pandemic came, they just extended that service to customers, right, and it was so convenient. China, a lot of Southeast Asian countries, right, you will see that WhatsApp, the common download language is English, even in India. But in India, after 200 million, right, people neither can type English nor understand English, right? So what are they doing with an app which is in English? So they are only consuming content and leaving messages. And most of these are businesses. So we think that, you know, with this intervention, we are going to see a far more simpler adoption within the merchant community, and some of those traits we are already seeing.
Great. So Kumar, I have just picked couple of points, and I think which I'm going back to my 2-3 years back, while my grandmother, she wanted to be on our family WhatsApp group, but due to age she can't type. But she loved to be there and see all the action what was happening there. So ultimately every day she used to give a voice message over the group. And we loved it so much till now that practice is there. So I think what you are saying is, one, how do we use the thing which people are using? Second, how people already have a lot of comfort in terms of non-financial transactions which are happening. So I'm saying somebody is giving order or somebody is giving any messages out, right? And if we can stitch this journey, right? So I think there where this sweet spot gonna be. So this brings, once we have sorted out this merchant side story and then your consumer side story, and then we create something good. Coming back to you, Sanjiv, and Sanjiv is one who is driving this Bharat customers since last 20 years. So again, he's CEO of the Spice Money, and I think, I don't know, more than 50 million customers he has just moved, and helping people to at least start from the assisted model, and now they are going to more digital. So this gonna be the biggest issue for us, Sanjiv. How do we get the consumer awareness that this is trustworthy, and this is safe, and this is very simple?
Thanks, Sourabh. So I think I want to sound a bit of, I don't want to sound critical here, but while we've spoken about opportunities, we've spoken about successful use cases that we can do, and I think we will. But a lot of adoption in rural India is also a function of behavior of people. And it has a very strong role to play in adoption. And if I were to summarize top 3, 4, which is very common. First is, it's a community-led environment, which means हम एक दूसरे को जानते हैं. So there's a lot of trust. And when you see people doing something is when you get influenced to do it. Second, multilingual. Language is very important, right? You change borders, you change states, and the whole dialect change. And there's also a change in the dialect in the same language. Third, when you talk of payments, it's very important, but it's about money. And like it or not, there's a bit of huge inertia of anybody adopting to any technology when there's a financial. Any technology, non-financial, is a very different use cases, reasons, but adoption on financial reasons is very different. And last but not the least is literacy, right? And hence, a lot of success that even we've seen today in, let's say, democratizing a lot of banking payments, financial services, because there was assistance that was given. People are not going to move to it on the first go. How can I handhold them? And I'm saying that there has to be a combination of both. There's going to be technology and community-led influence over there locally, which has to play a role in making this movement. It cannot be single-handedly technology that will do this.
So I think that brings me to a new point, and thanks Sanjiv. So one is that how do the dialect changes every, the moment you go to district. And again, I want to come back to my grandmother's, example. We in Madhya Pradesh having a very khadi language. So if somebody wants to write it in English or somebody wants to write it in Hindi, that's not possible. But, but we can understand it, right? So one important point on that awareness side, Sanjeev, how do you ensure, how do we collectively give the message of this fraud on the risk which is associated with these financial transactions? I think one of the biggest reasons, I think these poor people are the first victim of the Jamtaras of the world, right? So I just wanted to take some views from all of you that while we are moving towards the journey and we are inching towards to handle the next Bharat kind of customers, what all we all should be take care in terms of 1, 2, 3, that which will help our consumers to safeguard their hard-earned money. And trust me, it is so important that Sourabh can pay bill online, right? But a poor person needs to go to 10 kilometers, while if against that if he'll work, he will get 200 rupees more. So when they need more money, they spend their time in going and doing those financial transactions there. And so just, that's the importance of the money for them. So this question to all the, panel members, how do we ensure that we get this security angle in each of the things what we are doing? So be it product development, be it anything, be it awareness. And that's, let's start from the Ripunjai.
Yeah. So you rightly mentioned, Sourabh, there are two parts to the payment ecosystem. One is the sender and another the receiver. Sender knows that he's sending a money, but the receiver has to get a confirmation that what is the amount he's receiving and whether that amount has actually come in his bank account or not. And we have seen cases where a poor merchant, people used to show some GIF and show that I have sent the money. So the voice has actually helped us in Paytm as an ecosystem to enable merchants who are new to the digital ecosystem. That now merchants have a trust that one of the Paytm innovative product Soundbox, when it says that this is the amount which he has received, the merchant immediately confirms that, okay, I have got the money. And he hand over the goods or services. So, and the second point which I think adoption is, the regionalization or the localization of the language is very important. In Paytm, we have seen that most of the merchants actually do not know app because they may have a muscle memory to check a transaction or XYZ, but they don't frequently use all use cases of app. So can we build a local, regional, voice-based system where he speaks to an Alexa kind of a system and checks what is my last 15 days transactions? And those systems exist in, as someone, I think Abhishek was mentioning, in China, there is, if the merchant wants to know that which payments have failed, it is just over a call. So those kind of systems are gradually developing. In Paytm, we have seen that adoption in tier 3, tier 4 city can only come, especially on a merchant side, when the usability is easy and easy to understand, because the trust is the most important factor in payments.
Thanks, Ripunjai. So this, so with this, I think, let's move to the use cases. So as I know, and as we all agree that language is one common thing which can take this journey a little more faster. So in 1, 2, 3 Pay, I think, we have developed 4, 5 kind of approaches. One being voice on UPI. You just call and you will get the transaction happen during your on the fly. Second, now we are also trying to get something which is called these feature phone also getting these chips or the solution software inside which can scan. So feature phone can also scan the the normal QRs which we are doing. Third one is the missed call base. So a lot of people, and in fact that part of the world, they might be very wary of these transactions. So every transactions call and all that thing. So missed call is also been enabled now. Right? And so against all these 3, 4 things, this is all phone based, voice based, right? Again, we are talking about the, so we are dividing our solutions into one app based solutions, second is the non-app based solutions. Now, if we want to scale this up, and the use case could be immense, right? From each and every call, IVR converted into a payment hub, from each and every cash on delivery, how do we get? So I think this panel is one driving bank, second driving the biggest offline, business in the India, and both of you guys driving the biggest of, the intuitive solutions in the market, and Sanjiv, you are witnessing the highest growth in this financial inclusion side. So starting with you, Sanjiv, what do you think? How do we scale this up and how do we measure this?
So Saurabh, firstly, I think I come back to the point, there are two, three, I'll just share with you a success story recently, and it links with voice. So, in the biggest use case of cash withdrawal in our outlets, same thing of how do I get a consumer to come to a Spice Money merchant and to withdraw money and get that comfort. One of the things we introduced was voice alert for every transaction. Okay, and the fact that your transaction was successful, similar to what Paytm has launched in the sandbox, it confirms to you that the payment has gone through. Now that in 10 days has got an 80% adoption, which again comes back to tell you that voice as a feature confirms, is a very positive way of confirming to the consumers, and it's very receptive, right? The question is, come back to the point of the use cases that we do. I think the only point is how do you stitch the journey and how do you move a consumer to make that happen? That in my mind, we've got use cases. I think it's going to be a journey. I think we need to, so we've got the technology today. We've got the use cases today. We got to now build solutions to build journeys on how do I get the consumer to do this, and also probably closed loop on all issues that will come and how do you handle that. I think it's going to be a combination, it's going to be a journey, but I think that's the way we need to work, Sourabh. It's not going to happen overnight.
Absolutely. So I think, so what Sanjiv is saying that let's create one or two great use cases and create that journey end to end. So I think fully aligned with you. Ganesh, moving to you, the same two questions. One is how do we ensure the risk part of it? And second, how do we scale and measure it?
Well, I'll answer the second question first, because let's first get the consumers and then obviously talk about risk in parallel. I'm not saying we'll talk about risk later. Yeah. So, our own experience, and I'm just reflecting on how Airtel Payments Bank, and I'm sure that's true for a lot of other digital banks, how it got built. In the past, if you told a customer that he or she has to open a bank account, he or she would think, there's a bank branch, I open a bank account, I get a checkbook, I get a passbook, I get multiple documents and stuff like that. And that's a pin picture, and they then have a physical branch whom they can visit and stuff like that. I think all payments banks have actually changed that.
And one more thing, that is the response from that branch officials. While all that thing that customer can create a lot of things, cover all that thing. What is the time period that account will open? Is there any discrepancy? So I was a branch manager and I am having a live experience that around 30% account opening form used to reject because these Bharat customers differs their sign. And India being, our ops being ops, they don't take anything. So yeah, you're right.
So we have now sort of moved over the last several quarters to opening more than 40,000 accounts every day. And the reason why there is that significant demand is because now people understand that this is how a bank account can be opened within a few minutes. They get SMSs and notifications where they get all of these transactions and so on and so forth. Now, this change has happened over a period of time. To me, there were three key things which have really helped that. One, technology and experience. Now, obviously, for a customer on a feature phone or for a customer who has a smartphone and chooses not to use that smartphone to do a digital transaction, what is the experience you're giving that customer, and how can you enable him or her or them to do a transaction, maybe a small ticket recharge or a LPG gas booking in a seamless manner. I think that's the first key thing. Second aspect is around trust, which is to say that in case a transaction has failed or in case there's something wrong which has happened, how does it work so that the customer at the push of a button can reach out to the bank directly and the bank can within few minutes, change that. Because for some of us, we are, I think, fortunate to say that if we lose $300, it's okay. But for the low-income consumer, unfortunately, in India, that's not true. As in, they lose, as you mentioned, maybe a day's work, because of that. So how do you make sure that we treat each of those cases with a lot of empathy, and we respond back within few minutes rather than sort of hours or days. I think that's the second aspect. The third is a route to getting there, which is, getting, as Sanjiv mentioned, in every village, there is likely to be a key opinion leader or a sarpanch, or there is likely to be a BC agent or a kirana outlet with whom consumers or consumers have a lot of, trust and faith in them. So using them, as opinion leaders to actually drive this habit change, I think is the way. So to me, this is the way in which over a period of time, the category would get created. A billion Indians today who are not doing a digital transaction, I think there's a massive opportunity there. Coming to the point around risk and frauds, I personally think that maybe the Jamtara target audience is all of us here, because those consumers unfortunately don't have enough balances. But that was on a lighter note. On a serious note, again, at every touch point, giving the customer the reassurance that he or she or they are on the right path and doing the right thing, and guiding them in that journey, I think is going to be important. And secondly, they will make mistakes. And if, for example, if I had to send money to person A and it went to person B, how do banks or financial institutions take that call saying, listen, to me, this cost is a cost of habit building, and I'm okay with that cost, and hence I give that customer the trust saying, listen, you sent it to the wrong person, no problem, I'm giving that money back to you. Next time, this is the way to do it. I think that these kind of actions just build that much more trust. And to me, that I think, Sourabh, is the way in which we would sort of need to go forward.
So I think one important point which I would like to bring upon to our notice, that in UPI, what we did, and UPI is UPI because of 2-3 things. One, we ensured that it is 24/7. Second, we ensured that every bank or every member and every participant of the, they have to give notification and real-time messages. So that in terms of fraud, at least that person go back and intimate someone. So there where at least, we have some window to resolve that. And coming back to this, regulator is very, very keen. The way we are solving the digital transactions, how can we solve the online real-time dispute resolutions? Means Sourabh has sent money wrongly to Ganesh. Can I solve it online without human intervention? I think this is one area and which we could able to crack with the help of regulator, and which we are calling it as a UPI help. And you will see, or you must be seeing on your apps, that every app is now will be showing you 3 ticks: initiated, completed, received. And if anywhere the money is not there, and you will not see that green buttons, point 1. Point 2, you will also, we are also giving that every call center are being full on alert mode, because right now we sometimes observe that the social engineering frauds are more. So there is no technology fraud, but the social engineering frauds are increasing. So how do we get this? And I think if we start giving that trust back to these Bharat customers that your money is safe, and if you have anything which is related to dispute, it is real-time resolution. And if we can club or stitch in our products, that is where we will go. So I would like to take your views on, Vishal and Kumar. How do we stitch this real-time online dispute journey, which is already available in the UPI, with this voice tag or with this, 1, 2, 3 pay? And how you think it will, what scale it will be helpful to take our numbers up?
Right. So, so on the fraud per se, right? You are right that faster resolution and things are critical. But I think some of these audience which we are really talking about, right? They are worried to do that first transaction itself, right? So what my view here would be largely to that when I am doing the transaction, right? Do you have methods, right, which is not in front of me, right, but is hidden and ensuring that a genuine, legitimate transaction is happening? So, for example, the whole idea of blockchain, right, stands there, but, so another example, right, so when you are asking OTP to be entered, right? You have already given a cue for social engineering and a lot of other methods to be cracked. Say, imagine there was no OTP ever coming as a message, but the platforms, right, got, so any financial app or financial services through the regulator has worked with the platform to say something will come, you pick up automatically and just verify it, right? So a guy will never skim a SIM because he never knew that there is this factor, coming in, right? And I think that's precisely what at Tonetag we are trying to solve for. So what you're saying is that there will be this hidden third authentication method, right? So while you are doing that transaction, right, this hidden third is the genuine guy, right? So that if a fraudster is trying to kind of emulate that experience, right, or emulate that social engineering, like what happens when card machine, right? And you expect that whenever this card get tapped on that machine, all systems will talk. No, when customer reports a fraud, then the issuer bank contacts the acquirer that this terminal was malfunctioned. By the time that machine has already done so many frauds.
It's all reactive.
So I think in fact with voice, this is what you will be able to crack. We are working on things wherein the first time when you register yourself, that hidden thing is already embedded in your voice, correct? And whenever you are doing the transaction is when actually the transaction is happening. Yes, people can call you, influence you, and do things, but then I think those will be the later things which could be addressed.
Great. So, voice authentication or bio-authentication, I think that's where we are heading towards. And this will make or take us to the next level. And this is the right way to start. And this will also start giving us the potential to start giving the right scores to the consumers basis on AI/ML. Right? So if we'll start using those kind of stuff, so I think it's amazing. What do you think, Vishal?
I believe that the voice payment right now is in a stage where, see, the solution which has been created today is reasonably very, very, very secure. There will be security layers added to it. As you mentioned, voice biometrics is definitely one aspect which will come in at some point of time, right? But today, because the paradigm is UPI and hence MPIN is the common form of authentication. Now there will be security layers coming on top of it to make it even more secure. The bigger challenge I see is that how does the ecosystem come together to scale this up? Because that's where the real challenge is. Like any new system, like any new technology, like any new product, the voice-based payment requires the cumulative effort of industry. Like Sanjiv is sitting here with so many of his people out there in villages ready to help the end consumers move to digital. Airtel Payments Bank, you know the reach of it. I'll give you a very simple example. The moment we went live with 123 Pay, right? So there are different target audiences. One of the target audience was the rural India. And we immediately realized that to create an MPIN, you need a debit card. And there are so many accounts in India where the debit card itself is not there. It falls flat, right? Because there are millions of bank accounts where there is no debit card, hence you can't create an MPIN, and hence you can't use UPI, whether it is on voice or on the app. And that's where I would have to really give it to NPCI the way they move fast, where the Aadhaar is being used now to create an MPIN. So I think it's a journey. We need support from government in educating. We need support from fintechs, the startups to really keep innovating, taking it to the market. We need all the support of Paytm, Airtel, Spice Money, who are all there in the market to take things there. We've seen the ecosystem standing together. Like we're talking to almost all insurance companies, almost all NBFCs, MFIs. I'm yet to see somebody who doesn't believe in the power of voice-based payments. They're ready to rally around us if we are able to provide a holistic solution. I think that's where we are moving towards.
And I can't agree more. I think Aadhaar, which will another way to add another 400 million users in the UPI foray, and that's the one big bet for all of us to get this going. So can't agree more, Vishal, and thank you for adding this important point. So moving to the last questions, so Ripu, what do you think? How, how do we curtail this risk and scale this up? Because both things are, important. If we'll not curtail this risk, growth will not happen. And ultimately, again, we will be, square back. So,
one of the things which we have to look, what is risk? One is somebody initiating a transaction from a bank account, which I don't want to do, is risk. The second is, I have done a transaction, but mistakenly I'm not able to reconcile. So in both, the adoption will suffer because the user will churn because he feels that this technology is not for him. And the first, there are a lot of educations which we have to do in terms of like, RBI run a lot of campaigns of not sharing their security passwords with the one. That is more important. Second, and you rightly said, that the voice has to be more used. Like today, there's a screen which comes up. If we can enable that while entering a screen, if their apps can make an announcement that, okay, please put the password here. So for the payment. So, those are simple steps. Because today, every app, whether it's Paytm or whether any other app, has enablement that they can announce things. Like when we receive a payment, our Paytm for Business makes an announcement. So similarly, while making a payment, if we can have an announcement feature enabled, and users should have a choice that, okay, I can disable or enable the announcement, I think that will curtail the risk to a greater extent. Because most of the time, in our experience, we have seen when the transaction is done by somebody who is on a call, the person actually does not know that he is actually doing a transaction. He puts the PIN or something else, and the transaction happens. But if there is an alert which comes with a voice, and that, okay, this is the transaction moment, please be very aware. So those kind of small steps can actually help users to curtail that risk to a greater extent.
So I think great idea for the app-based solutions. So you said, make more customer journey more voice-centric. So that's great. So guys, I just wanted to have any questions from the audience to our panels. Anyone? Is the session is too boring or these guys are
It's too late in the evening.
Okay, no problem. So with this, I think we are coming to an end. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. My name is Rohini. I write for Straits Times. It's a Singapore paper. I wanted to know if, like many of the other elements of other apps, UPI, Aadhaar, where the biometrics are similar for one person, like that, do you see different apps and different companies using voice as a single element, or different companies will have different approaches to it? Will you process the voice as a single thing, or will you be processing it in different ways?
So I would like to take this question. Voice is one of the approaches, but in China, the face is another approach. So in China, we have seen that most of the organized shops track transactions by the scan of the face. And with the Aadhaar system, we have everybody's photograph and everything. And if that database comes to the fintech players in a secured way, the transactions can happen through face also.
I'll just add, I think Sourabh mentioned there are at least 4 or 5 ways in which UPI 123 is getting manifested for the consumer. And I think all of those are various versions of voice. For example, making a payment through IVR where I just enter my MPIN, where effectively I don't speak, but I use the interaction to process the transaction is one of the routes. So I think there'll be multiple, such interventions which will go through. Face could be another route which a different country has taken. Maybe at some point in time it may be relevant in India as well. So.
Can this be a centralized kind of a recognition like we have in AEPS or similar payments methods?
Sir, would you want to answer that question?
A tough question to answer. So yes, this has to be standard. I will not say standardized because this biometric, face auth, and all that things are very heavy, right? So in terms of databases, it needs to be standard, and we will be sharing very soon that the teams are working that how do we create those kind of standards / protocol that instead of your app or pin, is that your biometric is sufficient, your face is sufficient, your thumb is sufficient. The way you open your iPhone or the way you open your phones with the help of your your biometric details, can we also do the transaction? That work is on. You will hear it soon.
I'll just add on that. I think it's also related to the question which you asked. I think what Sourabh is saying is still in the making, but the way you should look at it is, on your phone, right? When you do the scan of your finger, that data is not shared with anyone. It's for you to authenticate your phone, right? And that could be my first factor any which ways. So it could also be very much possible that your voice is used as an identity, but never leaves your phone, right? It's one of the identity form which you have chosen over a PIN for convenience, right? So that could also be one angle to it, but yeah, this is definitely under makings.
So payment is more than anything else. Payment is the most crucial part of the human being, and that's why we need to be double, triple sure that it works everywhere, and no platform, no one can have the data elements out of it and all that thing. So that's why I said it will take some time, but we are reaching there.
Sort of what happens is eventually the issuer has to authenticate because there's somebody taking the risk there. Yeah. So it has to go through the entire system.
Absolutely.
That's how the architecture will evolve.
Thanks.
So we can take one last question. So cool. So with this, I think let me just wrap this up. So whole idea has given us 2-3 things. One, how do we make it simple? So simplicity in terms of onboarding. Onboarding, we are just making simple by adding one more layer called Aadhaar. So if you don't have debit card, you can come via Aadhaar also. So that brings up your simplicity in onboarding. While you are doing transactions or while you are doing transactions with 123 Pay or any other thing, make it more simple for this Bharat customers. Make it little more intuitive, right? And while after the transactions, so while we are focusing more on the transaction side, our focus is more on the after the transaction. If there is dispute, if there is complaint, how do we handle it? And I think that's journey which we have already created in terms of ODR/UPI help, which is available in each of the UPI solutions which is available. Make it safe. So safe is, security has to be by design. So as we see, UPI 123 is already on. And the safety is in terms of giving little more time to understand the customer in terms of cooling period. So not allowing customers in one go while they are onboarding, start a little, get little more comfort. So that is one. And there could be, as Vishal and Kumar mentioned, we can also add a lot of more secure angle like voice or biometric angles to it and make it really fast. And the moment we can create these journeys for this segment of customer, or rather any segment of the customer, the success should be on our plate. So with this, I am rounding up this session, and I once again thanking each one of you, Sanjiv, Vishal, Ganesh, Kumar, and Ripunjai, and wishing you a great evening and enjoy sundown with the NPCI. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
ये अपन